Uniform Show, episode 16. And what a lineup we have here. There has not been an episode I've looked forward to more than this episode because it takes us back to the 90s, the very best era of NFL uniforms.
Exactly what we've been waiting for. 3 of the 4 teams shown here, Eagles, Seahawks, Buccaneers, been waiting for multiple years. They announced that they were going to have these turnbacks but couldn't use them, didn't want to use them because they didn't have the merchandise to match and sell to fans because of shipping delays, supply chain delays, and so we had to wait an extra year, but they finally arrived and they did not disappoint.
So let's get into it. And before we get into all the NFL, we do have to finish up with some baseball. I mean, it was a significant change to the uniform in the World Series.
Because of the ad patches that have been deployed in MLB in the last few years, the World Series patch on the jersey could not be placed on the shoulder, on the sleeve, and so it was moved to the front, across the way from the Nike logo, and it doesn't look better. It looked better on the sleeve.
Yeah, there really is nowhere to put it now. And I was thinking about our home team Giants, who have the most cluttered MLB uniform there is, between having a large, or you could even say a giant patch on one arm. We talked about the Cruise, which I figure will not be around next year.
Right.
And then they have the memorial patches as well on the uniform. But you see it here with the Rangers, there was the Diamondbacks, and I would much prefer it to be where it always was, on the arm, as MLB has become the busiest, most cluttered uniform you have, or the 3 major sports that we cover on this show.
Yeah, and who would have guessed that in just a few years that would have been the case, but it is. And I'd even take the World Series patch even above the team logo patch here for the Rangers, or the ad patch in other cases. Interestingly enough, the Rangers did not have an ad patch, but to be consistent, they placed it on the front of the jersey along with the Diamondbacks, who did.
I had to complain about the shoes, as the shoes were an issue in the World Series with the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. How does this fit with the Texas Rangers?
Not at all. And probably the loudest set of shoes in all the playoffs right here. Not even one of the 3, 4, whatever colors are one of the team colors. It's just crazy, dropping buckets of paint of different colors on the shoes type of design. Kind of believe that's the reason why he was injured and did not return to the World Series.
Did come back to bite him. The Rangers were able to overcome, I'll say because of Bruce Bochy, they were able to overcome some of the bad uniform decisions they made. And to me, that was the best part of the World Series, was Bruce Bochy coming back and him taking care of it and going all the way, going the distance in year 1.
Yeah.
So I have to congratulate Bruce Bochy here as we wrap up the MLB season. One thing we'll get into maybe next time is the Diamondbacks already have new uniforms.
Yeah.
We're not covering that today. From here on out, this is an NFL episode.
But very happy as Giants fans to see Bruce Bochy have more success.
The Denver Broncos.
Denver Broncos debuting their snow-capped white helmet with the orange on orange color rush jersey combination, and it looked a lot like the Buccaneers in ways. It looked a lot like various college teams. Not good. Not the Broncos. Even what they had in the past with the dark blue helmet, the same design with this color rush combination was a lot better than this. And for me personally, I thought that dark blue helmet with this uniform set was the strongest point of it. And in this case, they removed it and weakened this whole set, which we don't like, period, anyway, but they made it even worse.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. I am ready for the Broncos to return to their classic look, meaning the orange jersey, the lighter blue, more royal blue helmet, John Elway era,
Right.
minus the final 2 years, the non-Super Bowl championship years,
Right.
with going to the darker blue, which they won the Super Bowls in, and then they've experimented with other uniforms, like now orange being their primary home color, but with that newer design look and the hooks, which I can't stand. And then they brought back the old helmet, but they haven't got it right.
No.
With it being the darker blue, which is inconsistent with tradition, and now they do this white, I'd almost say, again, expansion team look or color rush look. It was for a week, but for me it was 1 week too many.
Yeah. And you just can't imagine these will last or be around very long. Who knows, even beyond this season. The uniform itself, the design, the numbers, the striping, that's pretty good, but the color on color and the choice of color, and as you just said, the helmet choice of color just really weakens it, and they just need to get the colors and combinations right with this, and it could work.
Yeah, the design is okay. The only problem really is the helmet being white. I mean, I would even settle for, if they're going to wear this, give me white pants even.
Huge improvement.
Give me white pants for this uniform set, and right away it would be much better. And I wasn't even going to comment on this, but when you're looking at Russell Wilson and some of these players that have the Walter Payton Award that they won, saw with Dak Prescott, he's got the same thing. Never really discussed it much. I would really be much happier without it. You got your award, great. It doesn't need to be on your uniform for everyone to see and to show off for a long career, which these quarterbacks, so many of them have now. I mean, Russell Wilson is an example. He's 35. He says he wants to play till he's 45. So you're going to be looking at that Walter Payton patch on the uniform for, could be another decade. Do I think he's going to be playing to 45? Honestly, no. He may play another 5 or 6 years. But enough said about the Broncos. We really need to get into other things. And the Chiefs made some interesting decisions with their uniforms, and they went to Minnesota. And in this episode, we're covering weeks 5 through 8. In the last episode 15, it was weeks 1 through 4. We're taking 4 weeks at a time. We're a little behind, but we're catching up.
Yeah.
The Chiefs went to Minnesota, and they decided to go here, white on white.
Usually they've worn these against the Chargers and the Raiders, and this was a strange choice against the Vikings. The only thing you might be able to suspect, and we didn't hear any of the backstory behind it, but they played each other in the Super Bowl. Didn't wear this combination. It was actually the reverse, with the Chiefs wearing red over white and the Vikings wearing white on white, but maybe there was still some traditional thought that went into that. But interesting nonetheless, They wear the white on white again. They have the white face mask instead of the gray, which they use sometimes. And, of course, having all that white sock below, which for the most part, historically, that was what they wore. It is a lot of white. At certain points in the past, they wore red socks to go with it, and I would say that would probably look a lot better, but it is not historical. So here you have it.
Yeah, this was something we talked about too, was you have these two facing off, and they faced each other in the Super Bowl. This was Super Bowl 4, where the Chiefs got to their second Super Bowl, and they defeated the Vikings. One of those many defeats the Vikings had in a short span of years. I mean, it was almost as bad as the Bills. But in the Super Bowl 4, the Chiefs wore red.
Right.
So it wasn't like, okay, they're trying to turn back to that. They're not, and it wouldn't matter anyway because the Vikings wear the wrong uniforms now. And I really do mean not different uniforms, wrong uniforms,
right,
bad uniforms. And we talked about many times that the Chiefs going to red pants has been one of the great uniform improvements for a traditional team that there has been on the road, just as the Bears have gone with the blue pants when the Bears aren't fooling around with their uniforms. I was just disappointed by this. And another thing that you see in the other picture here is Travis Kelce, and I haven't addressed this, we haven't addressed this. I can't stand his all yellow shoe, yellow cleat look that he wears often. He doesn't do it necessarily every game, but most games, these are the shoes he wears.
Right, yellow for the Chiefs is such a distant third color, just in the middle of the stripes, in most cases, the border of the numbers. It's
not even in the logo,
no,
as we've said.
Not in the helmet at all either. Should not be used more than in small ways and sparingly. But he's been pretty consistent about wearing yellow. White, red would look better. Even black.
And a player of his caliber and talent does not need extra attention. I mean, everyone knows where he is on the field. Some call him already the greatest tight end of all time. I'm not quite ready to say that because of the era they play in, the quarterback he plays with. He is a great, great player. But his play, I think, really should speak loud enough and make him stand out enough without the yellow shoes and the person he dates, who we will not mention in this, and the commercials he's in. Just wear white or red cleats. Do what Mahomes does.
Yeah. Other just quick notes. It was a beautiful game with the sunlight early in the game. And again, it is confusing why they chose to wear white on white. It wasn't a primetime game. It was a later afternoon game, but strange choice.
Yeah, Minnesota games, I really have enjoyed the games in Minnesota during it could be morning here on the West Coast, but afternoon. I don't like the night games in Minnesota. It was a great improvement having them play in their new stadium where you actually have direct sunlight on the field.
Yeah, the picture with Kelce, it looks like they're outside.
But that's not all for the Chiefs, because the Chiefs went home. And it was a Thursday night game against the Broncos. And they decide to wear red on red.
And this was really surprising because their owner had come out and said that they were not planning on making any uniform changes or any type of alternate uniforms or helmets. And we would put this in that category for the Chiefs because they are so traditional, and they've been so traditional for the most part. Last year they didn't wear these at all. You thought that maybe they were done with these, and then they wear red on red once again.
Yeah, it's just the other extreme from being in Minnesota where you wear white on white to come back home and then you wear red on red. And from what you told me, I was shocked by them pulling this out. And again, another team that doesn't need any more attention. They're winners. They've won 2 Super Bowls with Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid. You come out in the Thursday night game suited up like this, and if there's ever a time to say it, it's the pajama look.
Yeah.
The all-red pajama look.
Growing up, we had red pajamas like this, red shirt with red pants, and that's what we think of whenever we see these red-on-red combinations, especially the Chiefs. But this was a primetime game. I guess that was some of the motivation for them. And you can also, I guess, just be thankful that the Chiefs don't wear alternates any more than they do. More red on red, more white on white. But this was surprising, close together, and as much as they have.
Yeah, just attention-seeking moves 2 weeks out of this 4-week period that we're covering for a team like the Chiefs. They shouldn't have to decide to ever do something like that.
Yeah.
You're the Chiefs. Right now, you are the envy of the whole NFL, and the NFL wants to be you. The rest of the teams in the NFL want to be you, and then you spend 2 weeks home and road with inferior versions of your uniform.
Right.
Now we're on to the beginning of the Turnback retro uniforms. The Buccaneers had a home game against the Lions, and I don't believe I've heard more fans ask for a Turnback uniform, the Creamsicles of the Buccaneers, more than any other uniform, Turnback uniform in the NFL. This is the number 1 most requested Turnback in the NFL over the last decade, the Buccaneers Creamsicles.
Yeah, and both their fans and just football fans in general continued to talk about it and hope that they would come back. So widespread popularity, like you just said, and they didn't disappoint. There were some possibilities based on some player comments that they would be different or some different style, material, something was going to be different, but we were glad to see they weren't. They were pretty much identical, if not identical, to what they've worn in the past before the one shell rule was put in place. And it's just one of the most unique looks in the entire NFL, even historically. No team having white and orange and white. And I have to compliment so many of the players for actually wearing the orange socks. They might have been in some cases stockings, but pretty much everyone wore orange, and that was really good to see because nowadays you just can't count on it. And when wearing a throwback especially, if you're going to do it right all the way. I
do like the Buccaneers standard regular uniforms.
So
they are above average uniforms, but these are in the top tier in the league, which those are not. And when you see these, you just say right away Buccaneers, and there's no one like them. My complaint about the regular Buccaneers uniforms are they feel like they're stealing elements from other teams and just slightly altering them. I've said a little Raiders, a little 49ers. When I see these, that's the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And that's what they should be. I would love to see them bring them back, like many, for good.
Yeah. And from what we know, again, they were only going to wear them once this season. We keep wishing, hoping that they would change their minds about that, as other teams have already this season, saying they were only going to wear their turnbacks once, the Seahawks being an example, and then changing to include another game. But for now, this is only a one-time situation, and being as popular as we just said they were, it is surprising that they only chose to wear them once, but they did go all out with it.
Well, I was disappointed with something. I wasn't disappointed with the uniforms or how the Buccaneers chose to put these out in the field, and as we're going to see, there's more to see with the Buccaneers and how they chose to celebrate this Turnback week. I was disappointed with the choice of having this at a 4 or 4:25 kickoff. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was in that hour, 4 late afternoon kickoff against the Lions, because, and we all know why they do this, because it's hot, and this was in the earlier part of the season. But for these uniforms, you want them in the sunlight, or you either have them in the sunlight or you have them a primetime night game.
Yeah.
So you can see them under the lights, either the sunlight or under the stadium lights, and so much of the game was in the shadows.
Yeah.
That's what I was so disappointed. You should have had this as a 1 o'clock game, Tampa Bay time, or you choose to have an evening game, especially if it's the one game they're wearing these.
Yeah.
It was challenging to find good photos for this game because so many of them were in the shadows. So I'd like them to reconsider that. Not that they care that much, but for us, I would love them to wear these again, reconsidering wearing them a second time. And if they're going to do it, you either wear them in peak lighting in the sunlight or make sure it's a primetime game.
Yeah.
But it was a real, even with that, it was so enjoyable to see these back again. And what are you waiting for? Make these your uniforms again.
Yeah, they want to have their current uniforms as a throwback to celebrate Super Bowl victories. Totally understandable. Like you said, I agree with you. I like what they have now as well, the pewter, but these should be the primary.
What I liked about the Buccaneers was they went all out, as you're going to see. The players and the cheerleaders, everyone was wearing the turnbacks. And, you know, it's fun. You can tell everyone actually had fun, and everyone enjoyed it. I mean, everyone was all smiles in this game with the effort of going all the way with the pom-poms, with the bandanas, which I don't think any other cheerleaders ever wore, from my knowledge. It's a very unique look.
Can't imagine.
And even you can see on the boots here, they have the Buccaneer logo there, which is kind of a neat touch that they added on there.
Yeah, I really like having the Buccaneers logo on there to tie it in, and because they don't have the Buccaneers logo anywhere else, like so many current cheerleader uniforms that have the logos all over the place or some kind of tie-in. That's a nice addition, and just everything matches in this game. The uniforms, the cheerleader uniforms, all the paneling in the stadium, the end zones, the logo in the midfield. One of the best Turnback week jobs you can think of.
Yeah, and in our very first uniform show, we pointed out the Buccaneers cheerleaders were the worst dressed cheerleaders in the NFL compared to something like this. I mean, it really goes from, oh, you stand out for a good reason versus you stand out for being the worst.
Yeah.
I do mean the worst. And as you said, too, the stadium. So they had the players, the cheerleaders, and then they had the stadium and the field prepared, and you could say dressed up to look as good as it could. I will complain to the Buccaneers, the picture quality on a lot of these, didn't have a choice. They were disappointing. But you see the end zones, you see the walls are what they should be, the midfield logo with the helmet.
Yeah.
The classic face mask. I love it.
Yeah. And the current seats perfectly blend in and match too, so it really is just believable. And you could look back and think you were in the past again watching a game in Tampa Bay in a lot of ways.
Well, that was good. And I will say with this episode, the good does outweigh the bad. Usually there is so much to complain about and negative, and there still is. But we're being positive today. But here was another awful decision. And this was the Sunday night game between the Bills and the Giants. Take it away.
Well, we're really happy about what the Giants did, even though we have something to comment about that as well, negatively, but they really helped balance the visuals out here because the Bills decided to go, as we just said a little bit ago, red pajamas here with the all-red combo. And again, red is so much an accent color for them. It should not be used this way, only but sparingly. And they just go all out. And they've done this for years now, and it still looks as bad as it does. And under the night lights, uniforms that look good look better, and uniforms that look worse. And that's what you have here. They're trying to copy other teams that have done it, and other teams copy them. The Chiefs, the Cardinals, so many.
Step back from all. Copying the Cardinals.
Yeah. And the Bills don't need to because they have such traditionally great uniforms. And they've been wearing so much of this blue on blue on blue combo. We thought this year they were just going to completely go all out and leave the blue on white in the dust. And I will give them some credit for actually wearing the blue on white with the blue socks multiple times this year, which last year they didn't. But still, it doesn't make up for this. These should never be worn.
The only thing that should be red, primarily red, for the Bills is the helmet.
Yeah.
That's another one. Screaming for the Bills to wear their Super Bowl era uniforms again. I don't care if they lost the games. They looked the best they ever did.
Yeah.
And that was the most success they ever had. Could you please bring those back? But instead, on a Sunday night game, they resort to wearing something like this, which every time I see these uniforms, just like the Chiefs, I mean, this is a cry for attention.
Yeah.
The Chiefs certainly don't have to do that. The Bills should not have to do that either when they were considered a Super Bowl team. Of course, their season's gone south.
Yeah.
This doesn't help. How about they could have worn their 90s uniform and beat the Giants?
Yeah.
Do what they didn't do in the Super Bowl. Could you have done that? No, they couldn't. But just about every other uniform, and I will say every other uniform combination they could have worn would have been better than this. As much as we complain about the blue on blue, I'd rather see that than red on red.
I agree. And when we're asking for the red helmet, we're not asking for it with this jersey and pants, like you said.
Red helmet, blue jersey, white pants.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
The throwback
here.
The Super Bowl throwback. Thank you for the Giants balancing things out, but we do have to mention that they're wearing white socks or stockings, and it should be blue, so we can't let them get by completely with this. But do like the change this year with the Giants wearing the Turnback dark blue helmet and the white on white combo. Much better than the regular helmet just with the retro decals combined with this. Even though you can argue that that color matches the blue on the jersey better, this is the correct traditional throwback.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a uniform show without complaining and gripes. You know that's how it's going to be. We need to turn to something else here. And this was different. It's not necessarily bad or good, but I put this in the category of unnecessary, and that's this alternate Cowboys that they decide to wear on the road against the Chargers in Los Angeles. And I wish I was saying San Diego.
Yeah. Again, they wore this last year once against the Titans during a night game, and this year they bring it back for primetime Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. And every time we look at this, we want the 90s version of this brought back, the silver helmet with this jersey, with the silver pants and the dark blue socks. But instead we get this, and it's just too much white, and it's just unnecessary, especially when they have the full throwback that they wear for Thanksgiving. This isn't different enough, and it's not any better than what they have.
Exactly. To me, it just takes away from what they do at Thanksgiving, which has been the tradition more years than not now, that it's the turnback white helmet, no outline around the star, just blue star, and then you wear this on the road. And if you're going to wear something, and I know it's like what Paul Lucas calls the 49ers uniform from '94 too. It's a turnback of a turnback,
right?
An updated turnback or modified turnback. But I like the silver helmet and the silver pants because it is a completely different look, because they don't have a silver pants set anymore, especially with what they do when they wear the blue jersey. They do not wear silver pants, they wear white pants.
Not this year, that's for sure.
That combination from 94, 95, bring that back again. This, to me, it's just, it doesn't do anything. It's a pointless uniform. It's not bad. It's still a respectable uniform.
Yeah, it would still be among one of the better uniforms just in general if it was their primary compared to so many in the league. But for them, a step down.
I had to bring that back because I really was not expecting them to pull this one out again after last season. So it was a surprise.
Yeah.
Ooh, the Colts. This is barf bag bad with the Colts. We knew it was coming. We didn't look ahead. Didn't know exactly when it was coming. And they did it. They wore it against the Browns at home in Indy.
Yeah, and this is another one that we already reviewed, but again, like so many of these that we've reviewed in this episode, we're seeing them on the field finally, and their true appearance.
And
really,
that's where the grade matters, is when you can have the photos taken at the player shoots in the off season, but the true test of how good, or in this case, bad, comes when they put them on the field.
Right. And it was just as bad. And these are the Indiana Knights uniforms, as pointed out by Paul Lucas. They weren't even worn at night when they finally wore them. So they wore them for a day game, and the roof was open. And again, just so unnecessary to have black in anything to do with the Colts. As we said, as I said in our previous review of them, it would have been better just to have a blue helmet with the white horseshoe and just go all blue, but instead black. And again, the jersey is that heathered, textured style with white somewhat embedded along with the blue. It's a little hard to see, but it's not even solid blue. And then the numbers are outlined in black, and you have the stripe on the shoulder. Just really strange combination for the Colts, and just really unnecessary and total.
Black helmets, color on color, and they look cheap. That's it. They look cheap.
Yeah.
For NFL uniforms, they're unprofessional uniforms, and if I'm going to say something about these, is they look to me even worse than what I was expecting them to be. We gave them Fs in our review.
Yeah.
But seeing them on the field, they are a little worse than I expected. Trying to be in a more positive attitude today, I only have one positive about them that I see, and it's that at least they maintain block numbers.
Yeah. Block numbers, the stripe on the pants, very few things.
Yeah, you're right, the stripe on the pants.
But we don't ever want to see color on color, and this is just another horrible example of it. But if they just had worn a blue helmet and the reverse of their normal, just reversed their normal helmet and wore it with this, it would have been a lot better for a color on color on color.
The Giants and Tyrod Taylor, he looks good wearing the turnback. I mean, all the players look good. And this is another one that I would say the Giants could go back anytime.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I've been ready for years. They've won Super Bowls, not a Super Bowl, multiple Super Bowls with this uniform set. I would not put it in the very top tier, the best of the best, but it's a clear upgrade, and it was as good as any era the Giants ever had for success, because the NY turnback helmet that they've worn for about 20 years or more than 20 years now. Okay, they won 2 Super Bowls. When they had these in especially the 80s and then going into the 90s, but that Bill Parcells era, it was a better era for the Giants, because when the Giants won those 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin, it's more like, well, they got in those 2 years and they won it. This was a team that was right there and in the mix just about every year. They were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In the 80s going into about the 1990 or so, the end of the Parcells era. They're just such sharp-looking uniforms.
Yeah. And this is a perfect picture to exemplify it. As you said, Tyrod Taylor wearing the classic, sleek, smooth helmet.
That they wore during that time.
Yeah. Makes it so much better. And all the accessories he's wearing too, the fanny pack, the hand warmer fanny pack, the number 2, the pants, just, he really knows how to dress. One of the best in the whole league, in our opinion. He made it look good.
He's a true throwback himself.
So,
minus the visor. You wouldn't have visors like that
right.
In that era, but that's a very minor gripe.
So big compliments for him, and they need to bring these back. And they really made the Commanders look awful in that game, wearing white on white socks.
Well, I respect the Giants' regular uniforms, but they're not meant to particularly look good or stand out. That's how I've always felt about them. It's more like, it's almost like a working class uniform.
Blue collar
look that they have. These aren't pretty either, but they do look better. One thing to say is that the helmet and the jersey don't match.
Yeah.
They're not the same, exactly the same tone of blue or shade of blue.
Yeah.
Like the Rams.
Right.
But to be honest, I don't really care very much.
Yeah.
It's just so much better than what they have.
Yeah.
And they wore these against the Commanders, who you can see there in the background, who were wearing their all white tights look.
Yep.
Looking just stupid.
Horrible contrast.
When you have a helmet like that, and then their Commanders on the other side are wearing their matte helmets, their matte W helmets.
Yeah. It was too bad these weren't worn against the Cowboys or the Eagles.
But that's 2 years in a row, because we highlighted these last year as well, around this time with the Giants. So just bring them back.
Yep.
And here's the other big one that so many fans have been asking for, and it's the return of the Kelly Green Eagles uniforms.
Yeah. And we reviewed these 2, and look just as good as always, with the slight exception of the pants being gray instead of silver. But really, other than that, everything looks spot on and very, very nice to see back in action again.
Yeah, I like the Eagles' regular uniforms, similar to the Buccaneers. They won their Super Bowl in those uniforms, but it's not particularly close which one is better. And I would say perhaps even a wider gap between what the Eagles' regular standard uniforms are compared to these turnbacks. It's like the Buccaneers, these would put you in that A- range for uniforms. I'm not saying they're up there with the Packers or the Raiders, 49ers, Cowboys, Steelers. They're not quite there, but they are excellent.
Yeah.
And when you look in the crowd in most weeks in Philadelphia, the seats are full of these uniforms. I mean, these jerseys. You see these jerseys throughout the crowd, and they're just asking for them to bring them back. I don't think anyone looked better than Julio Jones. I mean, he just signed with the Eagles, and he never looked better.
Yeah.
This helmet, the classic helmet, and then he's wearing number 80.
Yeah. He never wore an 80 in his entire career, and this was perfect timing, being a throwback to this era. Receiver wearing number 80 with the classic helmet. Very well dressed. We were appreciating him very much that night.
And this is how you do it. I have to say, for the Eagles, this is how you do it when you wear a turnback under the stadium lights. It doesn't get much better than this to me. I mean, they really just hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Or in this case, their stadium wearing it. I can't think of any other teams, and we'll get to a few of the others that wore the turnbacks. We have a few more, but no one did it better than the Eagles. It was the Sunday night game against the Dolphins. And under these lights, we had the best selection of pictures and photos to choose from, and it really turned out great.
Yeah.
Here are a few more, and I actually brought this comparison up. The Eagles wore these in 2010. From my knowledge, the last time they wore the turnbacks was 2010. But they are a little different, though, as you will see. They're not exactly the same.
Right.
You could say they are the Kelly Green Eagles uniform, but there are differences with the jersey. The eagle is not on there. Mm-hmm. You have the number lower on the jersey that Michael Vick is wearing. I don't call him Mike Vick. He's still Michael Vick to me. Then the pants are a little different, too. Thinner stripes on the pants. They're more of, this actually, it's a little hard to tell. It almost looks like more of a whitish silver.
Yeah. White.
Or just white, kind of shiny white pants. And then the socks are different, too. I mean, it's a whole different conversation, because back then they knew how to wear socks.
Yeah.
But you have more green on the socks, and then the striping is a little different compared to what they wore on this Sunday night game.
Yeah, I do like the green socks better, and provides a little more contrast there. But I will say a lot of the players did wear the socks correctly for the Eagles throwback game this year. Quite a few didn't, but a lot of them did. So good job there.
I do like the jersey better on the one they wore this year. I would take either of these jerseys just in a snap of the fingers, or uniforms. You know, I'd take either of these uniforms right away if that's what the Eagles chose to do. And it's about, identification too. That's what I'm talking about. Is when I look at the Eagles here wearing this shade of green, I would say that's them and that's their shade. I mean, there's several green teams in the league. Where you think of the Packers, I would think of the Packers always first. There's the Eagles and then the Jets. But they're all different enough. When the Eagles have this green known as Kelly green, it's instantly recognizable, and they have their own look.
Yeah.
And it's the strongest look that they've had, and it's just overdue to. It took too long to wear them again, and it's time to go back. I mean, we're coming up almost on 30 years that they've been wearing their current uniform set. It was 96 when they broke them in. And you say, 20 years is definitely long enough when you have an inferior uniform set. Might as well go back. My only concern is, and the question I raise is, why haven't they gone back? Just to sell more jerseys, because that's what it's about, having more alternate jerseys.
2 jerseys, and I would probably say the same thing as I did about the Buccaneers. You can take their current uniforms and keep them as a throwback and say these are the Super Bowl winning throwbacks, but make these the primaries again.
So, like the other teams, the Buccaneers, the Eagles also, as we're going to see, went all out. And here's the shot of the entire cheerleading team. And it's a very unique and strong traditional uniform set. I mean, I love it. I think it looks as good as anything there is out there compared to whatever they have now. It's classic in a good way.
Yeah, the logo with the eagle fits perfectly. And all the white accents on all the edges just really give it strong structure and division and contrast. Just all the proportions are very well done. Hard to imagine that you can improve upon it.
Right. I mean, I like more the skirt look myself, and never can go wrong with the boots. I can understand they're probably not thrilled about wearing that much of a heel. They don't have to be that high, but the boot look is the way to go for cheerleaders.
And the pom-pom split with the green and white, it's a nice touch too.
Very nice touch. And just like the Buccaneers too, they made the stadium look the way you'd hope it would. End zones, midfield logo, walls.
Yeah.
They did an A+ job with the turnbacks, and we'll get to it in the next show or maybe 2 shows. They've worn them a second time, and just keep wearing them.
Yeah.
Just wear them the rest of the season, wear them in the playoffs.
And if you get to the Super Bowl, ask for permission to wear them there too.
The Titans wore the Oilers uniforms. I had no expectation really that they were going to wear these until the off season. But what a surprise it was for them to pull them out, because I will say, when it comes to uniforms, I hate the Titans. The Titans are bottom 3 worst uniforms in the league. I have never liked their uniforms from the beginning. Bad helmet, bad logo, forgettable. Their colors are just ugly. I mean, they're different blues, a lot of white. Never been a big fan of the white helmet, unless you do something like this.
Yeah.
That the Oilers did. And this is the biggest improvement of all these teams.
Yeah.
Of all of them. We'll get to the Seahawks. Yeah, that's a big jump. But it's not close with when you have the Titans, where I can just say everything's wrong with that. With the Seahawks, when I look at their helmet, I can say at least the helmet's all right. Everything is bad here with the Titans. The Oilers, if the Oilers were back, it's a top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just beautiful, complementary design all over the place. As we already mentioned in our previous review when they were first released. But like you were saying, for a white helmet, this works because there's so much structure and color and support for that white helmet. The big stripe in the middle, the oil well logo, and then the red face mask all work so well together. And then the Oilers name on the back helmet bumper, couldn't really ask for anything better or different. And the Oilers name on the front helmet bumper too.
I think I'd be in the minority saying this, and this isn't the first time I've said either, but these are in the same league as the Chargers.
Yeah.
People love the Chargers. For me, this is right there with the Chargers uniforms. I might even like them a little bit more than the Chargers.
I do. Yeah.
And from some of the pictures, it's almost like they enhance the blue.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to stand out and pop a little bit more than it did. Of course, they wore these in the Dome, the Astrodome.
Right.
All those years. Got to see them outside. The only sad thing was it was a gray, overcast day.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to see them in the sunlight, but for what they were, they can't come back soon enough wearing these. I don't care if you even called them the Titans and they wore these, whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can even change the name again,
Yeah, they need to get the rights back and become the Oilers again. And it was very interesting, too, that they never wore blue once in Tennessee outside. So it was really nice to see from that perspective as well.
I don't even care if it doesn't make sense being the Tennessee Oilers. Be the Tennessee Oilers.
Yeah,
make it
I
work.
agree.
Somehow make it work. A lot of teams have blue and a lot of teams have red, but they're the only team that has this look. It's all about being easily identifiable, and they are as forgettable as they can be as the Titans.
Yeah.
And they'd have one of the strongest looks in the entire league wearing these.
Yeah, just like the Buccaneers. This is their unique, identifiable look, and no one has anything that is really close to this.
Yeah, the Chargers have their yellow, but this is a red that really catches your eye.
Yeah.
And just the way the blue and the red play off each other as they do, and that helmet striping, like you said, is superb.
Yeah. And on the other side, they made the Falcons look really bad with their modern, trendy, current uniforms, and just the fact that this was a color-on-color game.
Yes. We were sitting there saying, I mean, the Falcons, unless they're wearing their turnback, look bad all the time.
Yeah.
But this is a color, right?
Yeah.
Can all of us please recognize that the Oilers blue is a color? It's not white.
Yeah.
And the Falcons wore black? What happened here?
Yeah.
As we found out with some research, the teams are allowed to do this. They shouldn't be allowed to do this.
Not in our book.
So you have class here with the you have class. You never have class with the Titans. You have class with the Oilers uniforms, and you have classless uniforms with the Falcons. Tradition versus trendy, modern uniforms, which usually always get it wrong. I mean, the Titans went all out as well. This is the cheerleading team. I also love the contrasting blue and red for the ladies, and the pom-poms have red, blue, and a little bit of white in them as well. They did the field and the walls.
Yeah.
Look at the walls. And this is as much as you can do.
Yeah.
This is as much as you can possibly do for Turnback, and I give them an A. I don't like the cutoff boots. That's the only thing I'll criticize on the ladies. I don't like that, and I don't think that's traditional. Otherwise, they look great, and well done. Well done. Do it again.
Yeah.
Do it at least one more time, especially let's get a nice sunny day for these so we can really enjoy them.
Yeah, and from what we know, they're only doing it once too, like the Buccaneers, and it's too bad. They need to do it on a sunny day or at night so you can appreciate it even more.
Yeah, and then I seen this picture enough time, but then I have to step back and say, those guys are strong, but they must not weigh very much because they're just sitting on these guys' shoulders. I got used to seeing the picture. It's pretty funny, actually, when you see that.
Yeah.
Look at this. You have this is how far they went. They had the logo and the striping. I wish I could get a clearer picture of this. Logo, striping on the walls, and then they went all the way, as good as you can get, with the classic helmet.
Yeah.
Face mask, helmet, incredible.
Yeah, smooth around, straight lines. This was the best.
Wow, if I was to have a background behind me, that's what I'd want to have.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Makes you want to be an Oilers fan.
One more time. Come on, please. Just do it one more time. And then make it permanent.
Yeah.
Do it one more time this season. And then we got one more big one here. And this is one we haven't heard much about from other fans around the league, but this is one we want to see for many years.
Yeah.
Ever since the Seahawks went to the NFC from the AFC, and it's been about 20 years now, we said, can you please bring back these uniform sets? Give us the silver helmets. I don't like that dark, wet, drab look that they've had all these years. I get it. Fits the Pacific Northwest. I get it. But these are such an improvement. And also, like what all these turnbacks have in common, they're eye-catching, they're appealing, they're attractive, they stand out, and they are a unique, identifiable look that you can have the first moment you see a picture, or we would say in the old days, to turn the TV on and watch the game, and you're like, yep, that's the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Just with the Oilers and the Eagles and the Buccaneers, no one looks quite like that. And no one looked better than Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah, when we heard that these uniforms were being made, he was the first person we thought of. We want to see him in these uniforms because he has the classic helmet, the classic number, and he knows how to wear his uniform in the classic way.
Yeah, the two players I always want to see from the Seahawks Super Bowl teams wear these was Russell Wilson, but my number one was Bobby Wagner because he wears the equipment better than anyone, and arguably the best picture. Well, I can say this is the best picture, period, of any that I could find of the Seahawks.
Yeah.
It's outdoors.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I read other people saying this. I think it was Phil Hecken who was saying to Paul Lucas that it's not that they never wore these outside, ever. But it's been so long, and the fact that they played in the Kingdome, it was like seeing them outside for the first time again.
Yeah.
And it made it even better.
Yeah.
And here's more of a direct sunlight picture, and there weren't many. Unfortunately, most of these were in the shadows as well, with the 1 o'clock or 1 o'clock, 1:25 kick on the West Coast. Most of these photos were, and stills, are in the shadows. This was one of the best. Again, of Bobby Wagner, no one looking better. Silver helmet. I mean, it's just such an upgrade. And the blue, and instead of having a neon green, you have this green.
Yeah.
And a little goes a long way, too, with that green.
Yeah. It's very unique, and it's just enough. And nobody has this combination of silver and blue. And most players did wear the socks, the blue socks, correctly, or blue stockings. They got the blue in there.
The silver helmets, though, to me almost look more shiny without being too pretty. Not that we say that Notre Dame shine,
Yeah.
like that gold, which is too much.
Right.
They seem to enhance it, and I think these look better than they ever did.
Yeah.
Both the helmet and the jersey. Our complaint, though, is no silver pants.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I expect to see silver pants really around the league anymore, but yeah, imagine how good this would look with true silver pants.
Yeah, same issue with the Eagles. That's the one thing that really stands out. But overall, a huge improvement. And I do like that they chose to wear this against an AFC team. They weren't playing the AFC West this year, so they didn't have a chance to wear it against their original divisional rivals. But the Browns was a good choice.
Yeah, and here are a few more, and again, unfortunately, shadows were an issue, but you can still appreciate what these are. I mean, the helmet is a very underrated helmet. I like the shoulders with the Seahawk. The striping on the pants is very good with the green and the blue, and teams just knew how to do pants back then.
Yeah.
Team knew how to do pants, you knew how to do socks. We didn't have to question these things.
Yeah.
And you could just sit back and you can enjoy a game.
Yeah. As we say so much of the time.
And the only thing you'd have to complain about visually is, well, if your team's getting beat on the field.
Yeah.
Or it's an ugly game in that way. It's just the performance, not the appearance of the uniforms.
Right.
And here's another great one, and I also loved these jackets and hoodies that they wore, the turnbacks. As Pete Carroll never looked better in his whole career as a coach, at least with the Seahawks. I'd have to go back and look at some of the ones that he had when he was with other teams in the 90s and the pre-USC days. But that's a great shot. And again, the block numbers, so good.
Yeah.
It's what you'd expect from that era. That is, I'm not going to say I'm ever going to wear anything from the Seahawks, but if I was a Seahawks fan, I'd devour all these
Yeah. Yeah, we're 49ers fans.
shirts and jackets. I would order as many of these as I could. I'd get the jersey, I'd get the jacket, I'd get the hat, shirts, go all the way. And if they sold the pants, I'd get the pants too.
Yeah.
Wear the pants during the game.
Agreed.
As a fan.
Being 49ers fans, we're saying this, but that's how good a job they did and what they had back then.
And that is something to get excited for and pumped up about.
Yeah.
And then they also had their cheerleading team or crew really go all the way with the 90s look too. The girls and the guys. I mean, these are like very 90s when you look at the pants and the style.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it. I mean, if you told me this was the 90s, I'd believe you.
Yeah.
With that. The jackets, I mean, you're going to see a lot more here too, that pom-poms look good, uniforms look good. They went back, I know I like to say I prefer the boots, but I'm not complaining about it. I like it's a simple look, but it's also a good look. The shoes, the all-white shoes, and the socks.
Yeah. Yeah, both the guys and the girls, the white shoes looks really good. And yeah, I like the whole outfit for the guy with even the striped socks there is just really good.
I don't usually like striped socks. In this case, it looks good.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could really go out there if you're a guy or one of the girls feeling really good
Yeah.
about wearing this. Very strong. And there's more from the actual on-field. And again, it's outside. Looks good. It's outside. I wish we could have got the players more in the sun, but I figure most of this was like pre-pictures
Yeah.
from the game. But it looks real good. The shine of the sun and the flags.
Yeah, the classic
The
flag.
flags that they did too. And again, You should be happy. She has a reason to smile when you're wearing that.
Yeah.
And there's another good one. The end zones, the flags. I mean, you can probably wave those flags.
Yeah.
And then also the walls.
Yeah.
Really well done. And I got a laugh out of this that even Bill Nye got into it, because I know Bill Nye is from Washington and may even be Seattle area, and he was the one that was raising the flag as the 12th man to represent the 12th man in Seattle. And I actually got as good of a shot of the front and back on Bill Nye as anyone, probably better than anyone. Don't really like the beanie on the side, but
yeah, he's
even the towels are the Turnback towels.
Yeah, the show was big in the 90s, and so that was a good choice of someone to bring out to wear that uniform and raise the towel, and they went all out, the Seahawks.
They really did. Excellent job, Seahawks, and I'm going to say the same thing as did with all these. They can't come back fast enough.
Yeah, bring them back primary.
And there's the stadium. You can see midfield logo, end zones, at best it ever looked.
Yeah.
In its history. And I threw this one in there too because it's the Seahawks again, but when I'm saying transparent, we talk about transparent this, transparent that all the time. This is the only kind of transparent thing I want to see on a football field. Leave it to them. I don't want to see transparent sleeves. I don't want to see transparent socks or stockings on the players. The cheerleaders can wear transparent sleeves. They have the transparent tights. Let them wear that, but not the players. And then we finish up, though, on a negative note. Sorry to say this. I'm not going to let it get me down too much because of how beautiful the uniforms and how sensational the uniforms looked throughout the episode, and the 4 teams that just did an outstanding job with their turnbacks. But this was the last notable uniform from weeks 5 through 8, and it was the Lions.
Yeah, and this was released really early in the off-season, the new Lions helmet, and it was shown with the gray on gray. And we rated it very, very badly in the production photo shoot photos, and we got to see it on the field for the first time. And we got to see it on the field against the Raiders, one of the classiest, best uniforms in NFL history. And it was as bad as we thought, maybe even worse. We saw it last year, 2022 Thanksgiving, with the standard silver Lions helmet, then this year with this new matte blue one. And it's just a mess of different design elements and colors, mismatching, inconsistent. The logo is the super classic Lions logo, but then the jersey is...
Which is a weak logo, though.
Yeah.
Let me say, just because we're usually so positive and complimentary of almost everything that's turned back, but just because it's old or classic does not mean it's always good. And some of these things, such as this logo, should stay in the past.
Yeah, not strong. And all of the two things have the helmet and the jersey and the pants to work off each other, is just the colors, but everything else is a mix of design and a mess of different eras and styles, and just horrible looking. And the Raiders just made them look awful.
Yeah, I mean, could the striping that they have behind the lion, couldn't that be right down the center of the helmet?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you have that? And I like what you said. I agree, of course, with what you said, that they are as bad as I thought they would be.
Yeah.
I'd say the Colts were actually worse. This is as bad as I thought it would be. They've worn gray on gray before. this isn't totally new, but could it hurt them to have some kind of stripe on the pants? Really, would it? I don't think so.
Yeah, especially with the stripe on the helmet, it would match.
And, it's a matte helmet. It's a Turnback classic logo on a matte helmet. It is a mix of all different eras. It's solely it's all over the place. And then you have the modern pants and the jersey to go with this logo.
Yeah.
This is the one you say, never wear it again.
Yeah.
Once was too much.
Yeah.
You can bury this along with the logo. It doesn't need to come back. They could have worn anything from the 80s, the 90s, any combination from then.
Yeah.
Would have been welcome. And it's been tough years for the Lions with uniforms. And if they really want to get over the top and get better, please consider a uniform improvement or going back to at least 20 good years that I just mentioned in the 80s and 90s of strong uniforms.
Yeah, honor Barry Sanders by going back to the uniforms he wore.
So that's the end of this episode. We have a whole nother half season to review. This was not even the halfway point, actually. This was just weeks. We did weeks 1 through 4. This was weeks 5 through 8 in the NFL. There will be some baseball in future episodes. There will be more NBA because of the season being underway. But this was a great episode, and one I enjoyed more than any others because these teams that did actually get it right. Not with redesigns, not with new uniforms, but looking back at the past and saying, well, we had something there. We had something good. We had something special, and we should use them again.